Hi, I'm Mike. Welcome to my Waffle Square, where I obsess about things and you get to benefit from it. So in episode 9 of our ongoing series where we are refurbishing this 2006 Land Rover Lr3 with the V8 petrol engine, we are going to be finishing up the heater core flush that we did in episode 7 by replacing the hoses that come out of that heater core, since I broke a piece off of them. And then while we're at it, we're going to flush the lines leading to the rear climate control system, and then get everything buttoned up, go take it for a test drive, and see if the heater works better than it did when we started episode 7. So let's get started. So throughout the process of changing these hoses, we're going to be dealing with these spring clamps. They are everywhere. And you can certainly use a pair of channel locks, as long as they've got these good straight teeth, to get in there into the tooth and hold that clamp while you squeeze it and back off the clamp from the fitting. The only problem with these is if you get anywhere off of perpendicular, you start losing the grip and they can slip off like that, I have found. Also, when in an engine weld, you have this much interrupted space to get a pair of these channel locks in there. Not much. So instead, I am going to try these pliers. They're made specifically for these types of hose clamps. And if you look at the jaws, they're both totally different. This one is like a little bowl, and this one's got a slot in it. And they're made to catch the hose clamp, bowl on the small side, slot on the wider side. And look at this range of motion. You get 180 degrees in this case, range of motion to grip from any angle. Now the second thing I like is once you apply pressure to release the hose clamp from the hose, this little key right here locks it into place. So you can back it off and you can just leave it down the way of the hose if you want, or you can come back off the fitting, squeeze, move that key out of the way and release the pressure. Pretty cool. The only thing I don't like about these is there's no back spring tension to open these. So if you can see here, I push this key and with one hand I can't really release the pressure very easily. Otherwise, pretty cool. Now you might be saying, well, that's great, but what if you're in a really tight spot and can't even get like this in there? Oh, I've got one more that I want to try out. This one is the same concept, but it's on like a bicycle brake cable. So you've got the teeth here that we're going to set onto the hose clamp, and then you squeeze from anywhere outside of that tight spot to relieve the pressure. Now the mechanical advantage I've noticed on this one isn't very good. You have to really get on it to release the pressure, but it does have this spring right here, so when you release the pressure, that spring takes over and collapses it, thus releasing. So I think we'll be able to get this into some tight spots, which is going to be pretty cool. Now before we get started, I'm not a mechanic. I just dress like one on YouTube. So you're just coming along for the ride to see what I'm doing and how it's working out. All right, let's start by taking the engine cover off. There's 4 of these little 6mm head bolts, so tiny. And then we also got to remove the oil cap. And then the hoses we're going to be replacing run right along what would be, in our case here in America, the passenger side of the engine, and terminate about right underneath the fresh air intake. So I want to remove the cover and the hose here leading up to the throttle body. So I'm going to take the Phillips head screws off of the air filter cover, disconnect the cable from the mass airflow sensor, and then take off this one hose clamp here and remove this so that we have free access straight down where the hoses are. When it comes time to release the wiring harness from the mass airflow sensor, I like to go behind the clip and just bend up the little plastic catch like that, and it slides off. We need to pull off this guy. He just gets squeezed. And out he comes. There we go. And now we have direct line of sight to the two hoses we're going to be replacing. Now, before we broke this piece off, right close to where the hoses meet up with the heater core, we did manage to connect the one on the left side as you look from the front of the engine. So to remove that guy, or to remove them both, you need to squeeze either end of this kind of quick release fitting and pull straight back. And it's 4 feet back from the front of the vehicle to get back here. So maybe a step stool is in order if you're not 6 feet like me. There it goes. Now I have 2 of these cool hose clamps that have this piece that hold the clamp in place that I used in episode 7. Back there where I need to get my hands in to disconnect the 2 quick fittings that go down to the climate control for the back. So I think I'm gonna relocate those by using this bigger one to squeeze off the 2 hoses about middle of the engine bay so I can disconnect those and get my hands in there. And if anything spills out, I have a plastic bucket or pan down below. So let's do that. Now I can disconnect those and then reach back and gently try to remove those. So those fittings that are heading down to the back of the vehicle are facing up like this. So I think I'm gonna squirt a little bit of PB Blaster in each one and try to just loosen up this area so I don't have any risk of breaking another fitting. Well, I finally got both of those hoses loose. That was quite a chore. Now, there is a bracket right here that these hoses connect to. That bracket and these hoses, that has broken, but there's a brand new one on the replacement. So let's get back here where this bolt is, as you can see in this picture. That is an 8mm bolt, and let's remove that because we're gonna reuse it for the new bracket. All right, so right under the area where the fresh air intake goes is this T where the large hoses meet the smaller hoses. That's one of 2 that we need to disconnect. And right below here you can see in this picture that we have a spring clamp, and I believe I can get to it right here with the regular hand tool. Yep, I'm just gonna slide it down. Good. So I'm gonna get in there with a razor blade and cut that hose a little so we're not putting any undue stress on this T-fitting. All right, now that we've sliced that hose a little bit, let's see if I can reach in there and pull it off. There we go. Yeah, there's a bunch of coolant coming out, unfortunately, but I have a pan down there. All right, as you can see in this picture, straight down there is one more spring clamp for the other hose. And so I'm gonna try getting this guy into position. Yes. Boom, got it. Okay. And it's sliding back pretty easy too. That's nice. All right, same thing with the razor blade. Let's get in there and cut that back a bit. All right, I've sliced that back. Now I'm gonna reach down here and Get this other hose off of its fitting. All right, well, despite all my best efforts with these clamps, there's coolant flowing out everywhere, so it's probably better off to drain everything first. Nonetheless, here we go. Well, here is the replacement hose, and as you can see on the tag, it is an OEM replacement part, and here's the model number. Now, as I look, everything is the same, even down to, as I scoot it towards what will be the front of the engine, it even has all the same protection around the hose in all the right places. So this is going to be a perfect fit. Well, that first fitting that originally broke off was not a one-off. Look at this one. Both sides broke off as I was trying to get this one out. So these plastic or composite fittings were really brittle, and I'm glad that we're replacing them. All right, so let's talk about the flush. What we have left heading down to the rear climate control system are two of these quick connect fittings. So the 3/4 hose that I use to flush the heater core is too big for this, but guess what? The standard 5/8 vinyl hose is going to fit in there perfect, and it even goes down into the little jaws, kind of like shark bite jaws right down there, and holds pretty well. Hopefully it can withstand the minimal 20 pressure, 20 psi or so that we're going to be putting in there. So this hose is, as you can see, 5/8 inch inner diameter, but the outer diameter is 3/4. So this, if you see in this picture, slides right into the existing vinyl hose that we use for the flush. So I just cut a couple 2-foot pieces off of this, and we're going to put one end in the 3/4 inch hose, the other end right in these fittings, and we're going to flush the system just like we did 2 episodes ago in episode 7. So let's do that now. All right, similar setup to what we did in episode 7. If you want the full rundown, please go watch that video. But basically, we have a water pump that's only capable of 25 psi because remember, our coolant systems are designed for like 16 psi. Fresh water here is going to run through the pump, is going to go through the system and flush out here in this white one so we can see any debris that comes out. I also have an overhead camera set up right here with some contrast so we can see what comes out of the flush tubes. We're going to do a bucket going one direction, then switch out, do a bucket going the opposite direction. Let's go. That's nasty. All right, into the first flush in the first direction, and oh, that is really sandy. Not as thick as the stuff that came out of the heater core, but just like a lot of sand is what it feels like. So maybe some sort of stop leak or just a finer sediment. Let's switch the hoses around and see what comes out next. All right, hoses are switched. Let's see what happens when we go the opposite direction. Oh man, look at that. All right, so just like before, it seems like one direction gives us a whole lot more thicker like this. Look at all that. That is really bad. I think we're going to switch directions 2 more times at least until we get nothing but clean water out. All right, the water is flushing clean in both directions, so I am going to now rinse out that tap water with distilled water since our well water here is very hard. And then I'm going to preload the lines with pink coolant. This particular coolant says right on it that it's good for Land Rovers. All right, let's put the new hose back in. I'm not going to bore you with the details of going in reverse order. I am going to take some coolant and lubricate each of these fittings to hopefully get them in a little bit easier than going dry. And don't forget to screw in this new adapter plate down where we took out the old broken one. Well, I don't know if it's because they're new fittings or the use of the antifreeze, but all of those four connections click into place so easy. So I'm loving that. And then if we draw back to right here, there is another plastic fitting that was broken on ours that I pulled off of this metal clip right here that this one is going to clip into. No leaks. So I purged whatever air I could initially out of the system. There might be some left in it, we can try later. But then I drove it down here to get coffee and got the vehicle up to operating temperature. As you can see in this picture, it is 44 degrees out right now. So pretty cold, that's Fahrenheit. So I've got everything turned on. As you can see in the instrument panel here, I've got auto. I've got both left and right temperatures turned up all the way. I also have the rear climate control turned on. And I am taking in fresh air, not recirculating. And I'm set to the face blower fans only, or vents only. So let's take some readings. Now, let's do the right. That is 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is basically engine temperature, nice and warm on such a cold day. Let's go to the far passenger side. That's 155, so a little bit of a drop off. Then let's go over to the far driver's side. This one's 117, so quite a drop off from those two, but still nice and warm to the touch. And the moment of truth, the one that was freezing cold before is now 79 degrees, so it has doubled in temperature. Remember before it was like 40 degrees when we were coming out of here. So what we did definitely made an improvement. Now while we're at it, since we flushed the rear system, let's check those vents. The passenger side is 126, that's good. And the driver's side is exactly the same, so those are functioning perfectly. Now I had a comment on the last video where we were working on all this, talking about maybe an actuator sensor or something that could be calibrated. I'm not finding anything in the gap tool that I can reset or calibrate, but I did find some of these live value readings. So according to the climate control, as you can see here, it believes that both the right and left side are set at 30 degrees Celsius, so it's hottest setting, and that both of them are at max hot for the blend actuator positioning. So it seems as though there's just still something going on here. Maybe there's still an air bubble left in the heater core, which is possible. I'll vent it again later on and see if that makes a difference. Or maybe there is some sort of blend door positioning that the sensor thinks is at max hot, but really isn't. We still have some more investigating to do, but I can safely say that at least Aspen now will be comfortable in this car with the heater on. Well, overall, I'm pretty happy with the results of flushing both of these systems. So if you go back to episode 7 and you look when I was taking the initial readings, every one of those on both the driver's side and the passenger side have risen by anywhere from 20 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it definitely had a strong impact on the production of heat coming out of the HVAC climate control system. And the back climate control is working awesome. So I am pretty happy with that. I also, while I was driving, tested the heated seats, and at least the driver's side is working great. So she's gonna have plenty of heat in the car for cold winters. Now, if you found this video helpful, will you please give it a thumbs up? It really helps the algorithms to start suggesting it to more viewers like you when they search for LR3 videos. Also, please consider subscribing. It is free, and all you have to do is log in with an account and hit subscribe, or if you're on Rumble, hit follow, and it's really helpful for the channel. And thank you to everyone who has been doing that. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Speaking of below, if you click on more, you will see the full description of this video. I get a lot of questions, where can I find this? Where can I find that tool you've been using? They're all listed in the description below. Speaking of that, I'm going to leave a link for all the tools that you saw me use in this video. Full disclosure, those are going to be Amazon affiliate links. So if you click on them and end up making a purchase, it won't cost you a thing, but I do get a small reward at the end of the month. It helps to justify all the time it takes to set up all these different camera angles and edit everything. And as you can see here, it helped pay for this hair transplant in the back of my head. Looks pretty good, right? I want to have some fun with the next video. We've been tinkering around inside this engine or underneath the vehicle forever. I want a little change of pace. We've got so many more things we want to do to this vehicle. We need to change out the broken fog light up on the front. The back hatch, you have to crawl in from the inside and pull a little cable to release it because that whole actuator system isn't working properly. But I think our next video is going to be me showing you how to replace our broken remote with a brand new keyed and programmed remote without going to the dealership. So look forward to that one soon. Until then, thank you for watching.